Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Conrad Robertson. I'm the Senior Marketing Coordinator for the Student Loan Help Group, and I am joined by two of our wonderful enrollment counselors, Patty and Sam. Now, before we dive too deep into the student loan world, I'd like to give you all a quick background of who the Student Loan Help Group is and how we have helped borrowers nationwide with their student loans. So for over a decade, the Student Loan Help Group has been assisting and educating borrowers. We are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and Chamber of Commerce, and we have helped our clients receive over $210 million in forgiveness, and that number only keeps growing. Because no one's situation is ever exactly the same, we provide complimentary one-on-one consultations with our expert state licensed counselors, such as Patty and Sam, where you can learn exactly the steps you need to take for forgiveness. We also offer comprehensive processing services on all your student loan forgiveness options, as well as default and total and permanent disability discharge cases. We handle all of the related filings, forms, submissions, communications, and auditing of documents to ensure that you get the forgiveness you deserve. It's similar to hiring an accountant to help you with your taxes. All of this is work that can be done on your own, but with a 96 to 97% rejection rate on these programs, it helps to have an expert in your corner. So now I want to turn this over to our counselors to discuss the important changes affecting borrowers. So first, to begin, as a review of where we are coming from, in March of 2020, the CARES Act was enacted in response to the COVID-19 pandemic as a way of assisting federal student loan borrowers by pausing payments with no interest rates. However, in September of 2023, interest began to accrue again, and in October of 2023, payments resumed. Now, after being paused for so long, and now that payments have resumed, and many, including servicers, are still trying to get used to that, what should borrowers be aware of or doing to manage their loans?
Well, this is a very important time for borrowers to be on top of their loan situation. I mean, not only have payments started up again, but there are also major temporary changes going on that can provide huge benefits for most borrowers. So the first and foremost important way to prepare is to make sure that you are on the right track for the forgiveness program that will be most beneficial in your situation. And almost every borrower has at least one forgiveness option available to them. Second, most borrowers will benefit from the recent income-driven repayment plan changes, such as the launch of the SAVE plan, which we'll get into shortly. And if, like many people, you haven't looked at your student loan payment situation in a while, now is definitely the time to make sure you have the lowest payment available. Also, if you happen to be in default on your loans, this is the time to resolve that problem right away. The CARES forbearance paused many of the negative consequences of default, but that pause is coming to an end, and there are options available to resolve defaults that have never been offered before. We'll cover that special case a little bit later in the presentation.
Now, you mentioned forgiveness programs. So one of them, as teachers, they should be eligible for both public service loan forgiveness, also known as PSLF, and also teacher loan forgiveness, TLF. So going through those, what is PSLF?
PSLF is ideal for anyone who's working more than 30 hours a week for a public service employer. And this is any state, county, local, federal government, or 501c3 nonprofit organization, no matter what the position is that you have with the employer. Public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, requires that you make 120 income-driven payments on your direct loans while working at least 30 hours per week for a public service employer. And then after you reach those 120 payments, the remaining balance will be forgiven by the Department of Education. And that's principal, interest, and it's tax-free. An income-driven payment is always going to be based on your income and your household size, and it's determined by the Department of Education. And for any employees planning to retire soon, IDRF, also known as income-driven repayment forgiveness, this is an option and a program that doesn't require a specific employer or even that you are employed. Qualifying payments for public service loan forgiveness are also qualifying for income-driven repayment forgiveness. So you can transition into this program from PSLF upon retirement without missing a beat. IDRF requires either 240 or 300 income-driven payments on your direct loans, depending on your specific situation. IDRF is also a great option for family and friends who may not work for a public service employer, especially if used with the one-time account adjustment. And then we'll cover that a little bit later in the presentation. We'll go in more detail on that.
Excellent. And what about teacher loan forgiveness, or TLF?
So teacher loan forgiveness, that's ideal for classroom teachers who don't have a large amount of debt. While this program offers a fixed amount of forgiveness and it's often lower than PSLF, you can receive forgiveness faster and you might already be eligible. So teacher loan forgiveness, TLF, is open to teachers who provide direct classroom teaching or classroom type teaching. You must have taught full-time for 5 complete and consecutive academic years in a Title I school or schools before applying. If you're using employment in multiple Title I schools to reach the requirement of 5 years, any gap between contracts is going to reset the 5-year period. So you really have to have been the last day of the school year in the old district or old school and first day of the school year in the new one. There are a few other important prerequisites to be aware of too. First of all, you must not have had any outstanding student loans on October 1st, 1998. Second, you must have your full state teaching certification and at least a bachelor's degree during all 5 years of service. For the majority of highly qualified teachers, teacher loan forgiveness offers $5,000 in forgiveness. However, math and science teachers in middle and high schools, or ESE special education certified teachers who are listed as ESE teachers with their district and also teach in those subjects or perform those duties, they're eligible for $17,500 in forgiveness. Now, if done correctly, teacher loan forgiveness takes 3 to 5 months to be approved. It's also important to note that TLF can only be received once.
So obviously these options sound fantastic, but what are reasons that they are not, or that not everyone is receiving forgiveness through them?
The Department of Education reported for the quarter ending June 2023, its most recent available report, that the total of processed applications for PSLF was 3,728,674 applications that met the employment certification requirements under the traditional PSLF eligibility rules. And only of that number, 121,221 forms submitted met the requirements for PSLF, and 3,600,007 453 forms did not yet meet the requirements for PSLF. So there's that denial rate that we mentioned earlier of the 96 to 97%. Some common reasons for that denial rate are loan type. That's they have to be direct loans versus Perkin loans, private loans. So all of that comes into play. And a lot of times people think that if they don't have the correct loan type, they're not eligible. That's not correct. That can always be remedied. Also, being on the wrong repayment plan, not working for a qualifying employer, not working enough hours per week, and either the borrower or employer not filling out the PSLF application correctly or at all. And that's the employment certification.
And so with these difficulties, that's a reason someone may turn to an expert for help?
Yes, our goal here is to help you, not hurt you in any way. Just keep in mind the servicers have a conflict of interest because they make the compounded annual interest off your loan. So the longer your time in repayment gets stretched out, the more money they put in their pocket. Our team audits all PSLF forms before and after submitting them to the properly authorized official at qualifying current and past employers to get their approval and signature. We also check all FEIN numbers and submit them to the servicer after verifying. Once the PSLF forms are approved, we audit the qualifying payments to ensure none were missed and that all eligible payments are counted. We can accomplish this highly detailed and time-sensitive work because we have a proprietary cloud-based workflow and dispatch queue system that enables us to know where you are in the process based on your plan of action, when to collect documents, and when to follow up. We also do income reviews to forecast your estimated payment amount, compare that to your IDR approval to make sure your payment is accurate. Then we do all the income-driven repayment submissions and a thorough audit of detailed income documents in all forms. This ensures that you get the lowest monthly payment based on your income and household size every year until you receive forgiveness. This review is really important because sometimes the servicer will approve the wrong income-driven payment plan, and you won't know it was the wrong plan until you've made 120 payments. You go apply for forgiveness with the DOE and get denied. Or your payment plan might be approved for a higher amount than necessary, and now you're paying an unnecessarily high amount for years and years. We also audit deductions and review payment periods, such as if you're paid equal pay throughout the year or only paid for the months you work. That's very common with teachers, and that can lower your monthly payment as well. We also ensure your monthly payments are recalculated based on any changes to your income throughout the life of your loan.
That's great. Now, speaking of payments, we use the term income-driven repayment plan a lot. so calculating payments based on income and household size. Now, last July, the Department of Education announced the introduction of the SAVE repayment plan. So what is the SAVE plan?
So SAVE, S-A-V-E, stands for Saving on a Valuable Education. This is the newest income-driven repayment plan. SAVE was launched in July, actually July 30th of 2023, and this replaces a previous plan that was called Revised Pay-As-You-Earn, or you may know it as Repayee. If you're enrolled in Repayee, your servicer should have automatically recalculated your payment for the new SAVE plan before your repayments resumed in October, this past October.
So then what are the benefits of the SAVE plan?
Well, SAVE significantly decreases monthly payments for most borrowers because more of your income is considered exempt when calculating your payment. Just as an example, for a family of 4 earning $67,500 or less, SAVE will offer a $0 payment. $0 payments are still qualifying for forgiveness programs. SAVE also eliminates 100% of unpaid interest after a scheduled payment is made. That means as long as you make your payments, your balance will not increase due to unpaid interest. Plus, SAVE excludes spousal income for borrowers who are married and file separately, which means you don't have to take your spouse's income into account when calculating your monthly payment if you're filing your taxes separately.
Okay, and what loans are eligible for SAVE?
So all direct student loans qualify for SAVE except for Parent Plus loans, and you may know it as PPL loans. These are loans that are made to parents on behalf of the child. Even though they're your child's loans, they're still under the parent's name. Those aren't eligible for that program. Also, consolidations containing Parent Plus loans are not eligible for SAVE. And then if your loans are not direct, you'll need to consolidate into direct loans in order to apply for SAVE.
Excellent. So what other benefits are there of SAVE that are on the horizon?
Well, coming up this July, borrowers on the SAVE plan will have their payments on undergraduate loans cut in half. That means borrowers that have all undergraduate loans will end up seeing a roughly 50% discount on their payments. If you have both undergraduate and graduate loans, you're going to pay a weighted average of between 5 and 10% of your income based on the original principal balances of your loans. So basically, the more undergraduate loans you have, the more of a discount you will get on your monthly payment. Beginning in February, this actually was supposed to happen in July. It was just announced that this is being moved up to February. Borrowers with original principal balances of $12,000 or less will receive forgiveness of any remaining balance after making 10 years of payments, with the maximum repayment period rising by 1 year for every additional $1,000 borrowed. So whereas income-driven repayment forgiveness normally takes 240 to 300 payments, if you only borrow $12,000, you would only need 120, 10 years of payments. Or, for example, if your original principal balance was $14,000, you would see forgiveness after 12 years of payments, 2 additional years. Also, borrowers will be able to make additional catch-up payments to receive credit for periods of non-qualifying deferment or forbearance. So even if you missed some potential qualifying payments in the past, like, for example, you went to undergraduate schooling and then you had graduate schooling later and you were in deferment, you'll have a path to be able to receive credit for some of those periods.
Now, we did mention earlier in our conversation the income-driven repayment account adjustment, something that was supposed to end at the end of 2023 but has been extended. So what is this one-time account adjustment?
So this is a temporary modification to the requirements for IDRF and PSLF. So again, income-driven repayment forgiveness and public service loan forgiveness. What does it do? If borrowers are set up correctly, they'll receive additional IDRF and PSLF credit that normally would not qualify. This includes any months in repayment status, regardless of if you made a payment, a partial payment, or no payment, or loan type. Any month in which loans were in an eligible repayment, deferment, or forbearance status prior to a consolidation, months while a borrower spent at least 12 months in consecutive forbearance, or 36 or more months in cumulative forbearance. Also, any month in deferment, except in-school deferment, prior to 2013, this is also going to be counted. Also, borrowers who attended school at 2 or more different times, for example, for undergraduate and then later graduate study, they have unique benefits available that will allow the newer loans to receive the same credit towards forgiveness as their first student loans, but only if you're set up correctly before the deadline.
Now, why are payments being recounted with this one-time adjustment?
Well, the one-time adjustment was intended to address historic inaccuracies in the count of payments that qualify for forgiveness, and also to address practices by loan servicers to put borrowers in forbearance in violation of Department of Education rules. One of the big problems was a practice they call forbearance steering. That's putting borrowers into forbearance when they could have qualified for a low or $0 income-driven option instead. That's really only to the servicer's benefit, because forbearance time does not normally count toward forgiveness programs, but you're still having interest accruing on your loans. You're still going to have to pay that back one day, but you're not making progress to help get your loans forgiven. So as a result of those past failures, borrowers who should have qualified for IDRF or PSLF already end up finding themselves unable to receive forgiveness.
Okay. So then what do borrowers need to do to qualify for the adjustment?
So borrowers with FFEL loans, and that stands for Federal Family Education Loans, Perkins loans, or HEAL, H-E-A-L, that stands for Health Education Assistance Loans, they must consolidate these into direct loans before the deadline. A consolidation usually takes about 8 to 10 weeks, but in some cases it can take a few months, making it crucial to get the process started early and as soon as possible. The account adjustment has already started, so you can start the process now. The first batch of PSLF forgiveness under the one-time account adjustment began in January 2023, and over 800,000 additional borrowers received notice in July 2023 that they were eligible for discharge as well.
That's great. So who's going to see their loans discharged entirely?
Well, for borrowers in public service loan forgiveness, if they've reached 120 qualifying payments after the adjustment since October 1st of 2007, also borrowers that qualify for income-driven repayment forgiveness who have reached either 240 or 300 payments going back to July 1st of 1994.
So all of this sounds great. However, there are some borrowers that are in default, which historically has some penalties regarding repayment plans and forgiveness options that you have available to you. However, there is a temporary program called Fresh Start. What is Fresh Start?
So Fresh Start is a one-time, again, temporary program from the Department of Education that offers special benefits for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. Fresh Start will put your defaulted loans back in good standing, which then allows you to qualify for forgiveness programs and further student loans if desired. And it removes the record of the default from your credit report, which is huge. And then if this is done correctly, Fresh Start takes on average 4 to 6 weeks to remove the default and transfer your loans to a non-default servicer. And then getting out of default, this is going to protect you from its negative consequences, such as damage to your credit, garnishment, which is a huge one that's going to be starting up again as well. Also tax offset. If you're not familiar with that, what that is, that's when the Department of Education keeps your tax refund. And then if you get out of default using Fresh Start, the Department of Education has also indicated that you'll be eligible for credit towards PSLF forgiveness for the months of the CARES Act forbearance since March 2020, even if you were in default during those last 3 years.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Patty and Sam, for helping out and answering all these questions. For anyone watching, if you have any questions or are interested in scheduling a complimentary consultation, you can visit our website, TSLHG.com, and it will also be in the description of the video. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.